I'm really enjoying the A Few Quick Facts series. This is a series of 3-ish minute short films produced by various different companies, including MGM and UPA, both of whom produced this one. And they're aimed at soldiers to teach them things, to motivate them, to educate them on important things, and also to big the armies up. And this one, US Soldier, Bullet, and Diarrhea and Dysentery, is one part fascinating, one part kind of traumatizing, and one part really interesting. So there will be spoilers as I discuss what this shares and go through the 3-ish minutes and what you can expect. This is directed by Tex Avery and John Hubley. And as I said, these have been released to soldiers. And this one in particular, the first segment at least, is definitely created to make soldiers feel proud of themselves, to feel important, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. And the way it's done is actually really fascinating because we have this animation of a soldier, it's quite a nice design, and then we get some information. And the information includes the fact that the soldier is 5 inches taller than any of King Arthur's knights. Yes, on the one hand, that probably is correct. Humans are, in general, getting taller, but to say they're 5 inches taller is a bit of a stretch. I don't know if they've probably gone by the average height of a soldier versus the average height of a knight back in the day, but not every soldier is exactly the same height. So if the first thing they're telling us is not completely true, how can we believe everything else they're telling us? So it seems like a bit of a bad thing to start off with such a bold statement that you are 5 inches taller than any of King Arthur's knights. Because if you're 5 inches taller, but your comrade is 2 inches taller than you, then that doesn't quite make sense. So I think it's a bit of a risk to start a statement with such a bold claim that actually it is not quite as concrete as that. It could be that people are, in general, 5 inches taller, but the narrator is talking directly to the viewer, to the soldier, and that means that everything else in this needs to be taken with a pinch of salt. We do learn some other facts, so that the soldier in general knows more about compasses, their weaponry is significantly more powerful than it used to be once upon a time, and there's also a claim that soldiers know how to make beds better than the average housewives, which I imagine is true because lives for soldiers, particularly in World War II, was very strict, and I assume it's still the case. Did those soldiers, the ones who returned, then take on the duties of making the beds in the households once they returned from the war, assuming they were physically capable of and nothing unfortunate had happened to them like that? I doubt it very much. So it's an odd thing to boast about if you're not then going to use that skill once you return home. Maybe they did. Some of them hopefully did. That would be kind of cool to think that after the war, women had started to take on men's roles, traditionally men's roles in the workforce. Maybe men were starting to take on traditionally women's roles once they came home. I have no information to say whether or not that's the case. But if this short film is going to boast about men being better than most housewives at making beds, well, soldiers, but they were, of course, all men at this time, then it's nice to think that they utilised that skill after the fact as well. So it's an interesting start, but there are a lot of bold claims. The middle section I hated. It was relatively fascinating in concept. It's talking about all of the processes a bullet goes through between the initial manufacture to it getting to the soldier's gun. However, on at least 2 occasions, we see somebody being shot. Now, obviously that in itself has a time and a place in films. That's something that a lot of films include. But with this one, it's like they're encouraging that kind of violence and they're saying, hey, look, your bullet's awesome. You're going to shoot this person in the head. And I think the fact that it's the head is what I have a problem with. It's just the silhouette of a person, presumably representing somebody fighting on the Axis side. But the fact that we see them blowing their head off is, I think, even for a cartoon that's promoting soldiers in the Second World War, it's a bit in your face. It's a little bit extreme. There's one thing encouraging fighting for your country. It's another saying, hey, look at this bullet you've got. Let's go and blow somebody's head off. So I don't like the tone there. I don't think that's the right message. They absolutely could have done that segment without showing that image, so I didn't love it. The third part, I learned something, and I thought this was pretty awesome. Diarrhea and dysentery were apparently problems among soldiers, and they're told that this is largely because of dirty mess kits. Now, I'd never heard the term mess kits before, and I actually Googled it, and there are some images of World War II mess kits, and it's so fascinating and really interesting, and obviously this is an important lesson in hygiene. They've done it with a little bit of humour, because it's all with Private Snafu, who is a comedic character. He's caught short, and obviously it's meant to be quite funny, but also it's an important lesson. If you're going to eat food out of this mess kit on a routine basis, clean it. Otherwise, that's going to be a recipe for disaster. In all, this A Few Quick Facts was interesting, quite thought-provoking. Slightly awkward moments with the middle section where I just don't think they needed to show the Axis soldier's head being blasted off. I don't think that was necessary because it's almost glorifying it. And that's not the right way to do things. Yes, support your country. Yes, protect your fellow citizens. But don't make it seem like it's fun to kill other people. I think that's a terrible message, and that's really what's coming across here. So didn't love that. But the rest of it, really well done. Really great narration. Brilliant. Well, okay animation. The animation's not too bad. It's pretty decent. And in general, very, very fascinating and definitely worth watching.